Since the trade deadline is now less than a week away, I decided to make one final video going over potential trades. We'll be going over a select number of players who have been on the trade block. In doing so, we'll discuss things like contracts, on-ice production, and possible destinations for them. And with that, here are 5 NHL players who could be traded very soon. With the departures of Ryan O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko from St. Louis here recently, we have to assume that GM Doug Armstrong isn't finished making deals. And the latest name here to surface in the rumor mill is that of defenseman Colton Parayko. Drafted and developed by the Blues organization, Parayko was one important piece of the puzzle that helped secure the Blues Cup run in 2019. However, since signing his recent extension, Blues fans haven't been happy with his production. Currently set to make $6.5 million until 2030, Parayko at 29 years of age may no longer be a match for what the Blues have set in motion, meaning that Armstrong seems to be keen on a quick resoul that will be involving selling more prime assets. Interestingly, Parayko's playing style doesn't exactly match his 6'6" frame. While he's great for blocking shots and dishing out hits, he's seen almost as a gentle giant when it comes to dropping the gloves, as he's engaged in less than a handful of true tussles in his NHL career. Even still, it's obvious he's been struggling on the back end this season, as Parayko currently leads his team in defensive zone giveaways with 32. He's also struggled in the offense category as well, as he has 19 points in 54 games played. Recently, Frank Saravalli at dailyfaceoff.com revealed that the Ottawa Senators have made inquiries about obtaining Parayko's services. GM Pierre Dorion has been on the hunt for a right-shot D-man for quite some time, and it's possible that Dorion could try and land Parayko here shortly. However, it's important to note that he does have a no-trade clause on his contract, therefore he would have to waive it in order to be traded. As much hype that has been surrounding Timo Meyer this pre-deadline, wouldn't it be wild if he wasn't traded until the entry draft? It's fun to throw that out there for speculation, but obviously we're here to hypothetically assume that he'll be being dealt before the deadline comes. Meyer has been doing everything in his power this season to attract attention from NHL GMs, as Meyer has already notched 31 goals so far this campaign. Even though he's been a little quieter here lately when it comes to scoring, the forward has managed to notch 52 points following 57 games played. A versatile power forward, Meyer has no problem with taking on his shutdown role. On the other side, Meyer has proven that he can also thrive on his skill line as well. Some teams that have been heavily linked to Meyer are the Carolina Hurricanes, New Jersey Devils, and Toronto Maple Leafs. However, since they acquired Ryan O'Reilly, GM Kyle Dubas likely has his sights set on the blue line, more on that later. But the Hurricanes have been searching for the right replacement for their top 6 after losing Max Pacioretty for the season, and the New Jersey Devils have been hoping to take that next step by adding Meyer to their roster as well. Most signs point to New Jersey for being the prime place for Meyer to go to. Even though they did sign Andre Palat last summer, theoretically GM Tom Fitzgerald could make it work. Also, Meyer is an RFA and has a qualifying offer of $10 million for next season, but reportedly, if he did sign an extension, he would be happy with $9 million a season. I don't know about you all, but it almost feels like a soap opera here recently airing in Chicago. Since Kane wasn't traded before Vladimir Tarasenko and Ryan O'Reilly, this has had him speaking out about it and even dissing the Blackhawks openly to the media. As you may recall, Kane recently gave a verbal thumbs down to the treatment that Kirby Dach received while he was in Chicago's lineup. This has really put a wedge, I'm sure, between Kane and his team, if it wasn't there already. With Captain Jonathan Toews staying put for the deadline, the possibility that Kane could be moved is still on the table. Even though he was rumored to be nursing a hip injury, Kane has clearly proven to spectators that he's still got it. Within the last 5 contests he's appeared in, Kane has notched an impressive 10 points. His most recent hat-trick came about while he was versing the Toronto Maple Leafs, ironically a team that passed him up. Despite the fact that he does carry that steep $10.5 million cap hit, we have to surmise that the Hawks will retain some salary. It's important to remember that he does have control of his future, as Kane has a full no-move clause in place on his contract. Now, an interesting article from The Athletic is following up with the notion that Kane could be on Edmonton's radar. With names such as Jesse Puljujarvi and Warren Foegele in and out of insiders' mouths, this leaves the opportunity that Edmonton could move some assets in order to acquire Kane's services. After taking a deep run into the postseason last year, Edmonton is looking to go even further this spring. Assistant GM Brad Holland was recently seen scouting at Chicago's game in Dallas. Therefore, we know that Edmonton has interest in someone that was playing in that contest. Duncan Keith, who cherished his time in Edmonton, could be in Kane's ear swaying him to jet up north if the opportunity comes about. And it's also important to mention that the New York Rangers have recently again been linked to Kane. Therefore, it will be interesting to see what happens with the man they call Showtime. Since JT Miller's name has been surfacing more and more as the next Canuck to be dealt, I thought this would be a fun opportunity to touch on it. Recently, insider Elliot Friedman revealed on his 32 Thoughts podcast that teams have been calling Vancouver and inquiring about Miller. After putting on an offensive clinic in BC, Miller was able to record 99 points throughout last season. That helped him secure the hefty extension he agreed to, which is set to kick in next campaign, meaning that currently, the forward is a pending UFA, and once the new deal kicks in, he'll be making $8 million a season until 2030. I think if I didn't at least address the elephant in the room here, I'd be doing you all a disservice. Even though Miller has proven that he can provide some stable offense, he's had some issues with his attitude more often this season. I think personally it has to do with the fact that Vancouver has been losing a lot and he doesn't have the emotional maturity to cope like other players do. He's intense and wants to win just like everyone else. When that doesn't happen, well, he shows how he feels about it. Anyways, a few teams that could use Miller substantially are the Detroit Red Wings if they lose Larkin, the Winnipeg Jets, and the New York Islanders. But I thought I'd throw a dark horse team out there because it would make sense if it happened in some ways. The Carolina Hurricanes. Now, obviously taking on Miller's contract with that full no-move clause would be a huge gamble, but technically he wouldn't be a rental, and we know how the Canes feel about those. There's something about playing in Raleigh that seemed to appeal to players that may need an attitude adjustment. We witnessed Tony DeAngelo going there and fitting in, and Max Domi heading over there too. The Canes have had interest in Meyer, who is also a versatile forward, and knowing how dedicated the team is to two-way game, hypothetically, they could get Miller back into back-checking as well. While this probably won't happen, just the prospect of it felt like a lot of fun to touch on. Erik Carlson, just like Miller was last season, has been doing everything here recently in his power to draw attention his way. As he's been doing most of the season, Carlson has been leading all D-man in scoring by a landslide. Currently, he's more than 10 points ahead of Rasmus Dahlin with 76. Carlson is an elite puck mover and a guy you'd welcome easily to be on the first power play unit. The biggest hurdle per se to Carlson being dealt has been his lofty $11.5 million cap hit. The contract that's set to expire in 2027 carries with it a full no-move clause. But considering the direction the Sharks are heading in, it's highly possible that Carlson will want to chase a Stanley Cup elsewhere this spring. A couple Canadian teams that definitely could use Carlson this postseason are the Edmonton Oilers and Toronto Maple Leafs. GM Ken Holland is probably going to try and address needs on the back end, first and foremost this deadline. As I previously mentioned, Kane would make sense as an addition, but only if the Oil aren't able to score a top pairing D-man first. Carlson, who definitely fits the bill, would be a perfect addition to the Oilers roster. However, Edmonton would need to find a third party to try and take on some of the salary. Another team that would need a broker to take on Carlson's contract is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, the Oilers make so much more sense, but Sportsnet's Justin Bourne recently threw Toronto fans a bone. Bourne listed 5 potential defensemen that GM Kyle Dubas could try and obtain. The biggest name on this list was indeed the former Norris recipients. If the Sharks can get his salary down to, say, $7 or $8 million against the cap, then it would be more feasible. However, Dubas would have to move several roster players, even with Matt Murray and Jake Muzzin giving the LTIR relief. Putting Carlson in on the first pairing would definitely give the Leafs the momentum needed to get past the first round for the first time since 2004.